customer come in and said, hey, what kind of gluten-free like options do you guys have here? In the bake shop, he said, hey, we don't have gluten-free options. And the guy just got all upset and was like, well, what do you mean you don't have gluten-free options? Like, this is discriminatory. Like, you don't have anything that I can eat. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, Valentina. What is your handle on social media?
I'm at Sweet Portfolio on
I love that.
platforms.
I love it. So you are a pastry chef, and I have so many questions. I just had an ADHD blank. It's totally okay. I want to know, I have so many questions, but first I want to know how you decided to get into this line of work. And I know everyone always has a different story, and I know that you said that your story was like a little backwards, but I want to hear like why you decided this was like the profession for you, and then what did you have to do like to get into it? Like what were the requirements, what schooling, licenses, like all those things.
I think my journey was a little bit unconventional in the sense that I didn't go to college
Okay.
traditionally. So after graduating high school, I took a gap year and I wanted to go to school for, well, I wanted to be in politics. So I did like an internship in Congress.
Okay.
I was an intern for Congresswoman in Florida.
Okay.
I grew up and I was so like, Model UN, debate team. I was so type A and I thought I knew what I wanted to do. I'm going to be a lawyer someday. But I wasn't sure where I wanted to go to school.
Right.
I got into school in D.C. I really want to go to D.C. But, I mean, I grew up in a very traditional family. I was like the first generation that would go to school in the U.S. So my dad's Italian, my mom's Colombian. I think it was a little bit difficult for them to just like let me go to another state.
Yeah.
So I took that gap year. They wanted me to like be sure about what I wanted to do, spend some time at home. Because I graduated like pretty young. And I realized I absolutely did not want to do that. I'm like, oh my God, I hate this. Like answering all these calls, the constituents were so mean and everything felt so corrupt. I hated it. So, then at around the same time, I opened my Instagram account at Sweet Portfolio because I was posting a lot of food videos and like photos on Snapchat, and my dad didn't have Snapchat. He didn't even have Instagram, or he doesn't even have any social media, but he would download Instagram just to see what you're up to.
That's so sweet.
Because at the time, all these like business insider videos were going viral. Like
That's
the food went to New York, and I was like, oh my God, this is insane.
That's so cool.
So I wanted to go to all these spots, and then I would go to a lot of restaurants in Miami. I'm much older than my siblings, so I always got to like go out for dinner with my parents as a kid, and just loved restaurants and like food in general was like such an important part of my life because like my cultures are so different.
Yeah.
Food is like the center of everything.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I love to bake and to eat and try food, whatever, Food Network, like watching all these shows.
You watch like Rosanna Pansino.
Oh, she's so
I
she's
love
so
Rosanna Pansino. She's
I was, like,
so
in
sweet.
middle school and I would watch her and I'm like,
She's so cool. She's a wonderful human being. Like I've I'm like choking on my tea right now. Don't mind me. But Rosanna's like such a good person because I've met her and
I can tell. You can tell when people are like really
sometimes it can be really hard in the industry of like, are they really that nice? But she is. I promise she is.
Yeah, I don't think you can fake niceness like that for like over 10 years. Like
That's true. That would be hard to
should have been
do.
canceled already if she were nice.
I like her a lot. But sorry, I interrupted. I didn't have my Adderall today. Please continue.
Well, so going back to my story, took the gap year, always loved food, started an Instagram account because my dad told me to. My parents came up with the name. It was like, okay, I'm just going to start posting photos for fun. And I took it so seriously from the beginning. I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to like invest so much time into it.
I want to look good.
Money and whatever. So immediately, like, I started doing research on cameras. So I got like this little like mirrorless Canon, and like I didn't know anything. Then I started like learning how to Photoshop and like Lightroom and stuff. Because at the time, post Instagram videos and TikTok was the thing. It's like 2017.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
It was all about photos and just like trying to learn, and then start doing research about restaurants. Like I had been to tons, but not from I wasn't like thinking about it. If
Yeah.
that makes sense. Like I wasn't keeping track of like, oh, I like this. I love the ambience here. This
Yeah.
is a great dessert spot. Like I
You don't know what
wasn't
you're,
thinking
yeah. You when you're just starting, like you don't really know what you should, like things that feel like really good, obvious ideas later on. You're like, why didn't I do this earlier? But like, we don't know. We're starting out.
that. No, it was also real fun and started growing a following. And like honestly, like 3 months in, I even got like a brand deal. I think my first brand deal was with McDonald's.
That's so funny. I love that.
They had like a local promotion for like a Sunday.
That's
And
cool.
I remember they took us to like this new location in Miami, like beautiful, like brand new. They showed us the kitchen. It's like spotless, like the nicest McDonald's you'll probably ever go to. And I was like, wow, this is so cool. I got like $300. Like I'm like 18. I'm like,
Yeah.
wow. Like,
This
that's a
is
lot of money.
fancy.
So I was excited, and then I started taking some classes in Miami, like college, and then like my account started to like blow up, and I was like, I don't think I want to go to school.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't happen immediately. Obviously, it's not like now when you go viral, like you really
It goes
go viral
really quick.
and,
Yeah.
No, at the time, like having 10,000 followers was like a big deal.
Absolutely.
Not like quit your job, big
Right.
deal, but
It
I
was
getting traction.
Yeah, it was before like the big age of influencers. Yeah.
I thought like, okay, I could get into this. I was like planning ahead. I thought, okay, maybe this is not going to be like my job, but I can learn about social media and apply to other things. So then I started working with a real estate agent in Miami. I worked for Compass, like great brokerage, and he had like these beautiful like $5-10 million listings.
That's awesome.
So I would like hang out with them. They were like the nicest people, and we're still friends to this day. And I would just go to these listings and make like all these like fun social media videos and things. And I was like, okay, maybe this is what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna do like social media for like a big company like one day.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna like learn while I run my account. So that was my plan at the beginning.
Okay.
And then eventually I was like, I really enjoyed it, but then my account like really started to get traction, and I realized like, wow, this could be like my full-time job. Like probably like 2 years in after I didn't really enroll in college, and I was doing so well, and
Yeah.
I was busy. Like I was like
All the time.
constantly like doing things. So yeah, I was like, okay, this is gonna work out. I was like really proud of myself, and it's like difficult to make those decisions when you're like 20.
Yeah.
So you're like, what if I don't go to college and like I screw up like
Everything. Yeah.
But I'm so lucky to have, even though I have such traditional parents, they were so supportive of me. Like they believed in whatever I wanted to do. And honestly, like, I think if I had told them like I want to go to art school or something that a lot of parents probably wouldn't agree with, they would have been okay with it.
I love that.
So that was really helpful. Like they were the ones who pushed me to like express myself creatively in that sense. So I think I wouldn't be where I'm at if they hadn't supported me. So like it's difficult when you have your parents' support.
Absolutely.
So yeah, and then I started like posting and doing this full time, working with brands, working with restaurants in Miami, and then the pandemic hit.
Oh God.
And I mean, the restaurants were closed.
Yeah. So you couldn't go do like food reviews and things like that.
No, but and it's interesting because I've always loved to bake, but I always thought like I'm not good enough.
Oh, I hate that,
Like,
Valentina.
I'm like meeting all these incredible chefs, like some that have worked in Michelin star restaurants. At the time, the Michelin Guide hadn't arrived to Miami. They were like worked in these like incredible kitchens, or they were just so talented. Yeah, so like all these great chefs that I knew, like so talented. I'm like, well, why would anyone want to see what I'm making? Like, I'm going to these crazy kitchens, and like all these restaurants in Miami were like $1 million restaurants. Like people were investing like $10 million into a restaurant, and like the kitchens were insane, the chefs were insane, the menus were insane. Like who cares about what I'm making?
No.
Then the pandemic hit, and it was a very interesting like shift. And also, I mean, you couldn't be like, I grew up in such an opulent city, so flashy. And at that time, you realize, like, money doesn't matter. Like, it's a pandemic. It hits everyone. Everyone's affected by it.
Yeah.
So my approach, like, really shifted, and I was trying to come up with ways on, like, how to keep people entertained at home and, like, how to create, like, recipes and make things at home that are fun, cheap, and accessible. So I started, like, playing around with, like, pre-made doughs, like the Pillsbury doughs, like the croissant, like crescent rolls, and like cinnamon roll things, and like
That
that's like
sounds
funny,
so
like
good.
air fryer hacks and all those things. It's like, well, you couldn't buy so many ingredients, and like sometimes when you follow a recipe, like you start buying all the ingredients, and you're like, okay, this is like $70 for a cake.
Yeah.
Like at that time, because most people lost their jobs, like nobody had the time, like there were more important things to keep in mind. So I was like, okay, they'll go in a coffee. Like, let's just focus on these like fun trends. So I started like actually a bunch of like of the TikTok trends that you would see.
Yeah.
So like whipped, like all the whipped drinks. Like I
Yeah.
came up with that, and I even got like articles written about it. It was so interesting. The dynamic was so interesting, and like then like people started making like the mini cereals and like all these fun like little things to keep yourself entertained, and also kids at home with their parents. I figured like I had a big following that were like younger children,
Yeah.
and all my recipes were really accessible at the time because I was just like keeping all these people in mind. I'm like, I can't imagine being at home and not just being at home like as a child.
Yeah.
'Cause, like I have younger siblings. My sister was maybe like 9, 10 at the time, and
Yeah. Like, what do they do all the? Yeah.
she went to school via Zoom for like a whole year.
Yep. Yep. I taught kids via Zoom for the whole year. Yeah. It's
so
rough.
difficult. My brother's freshman year was via Zoom.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Now he's in college, but
I taught 3 different classes of freshmen who like their whole first year was all online.
that's rough.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so I was keeping people like that in mind, and honestly, it's like it was a great decision. Like it was a great shift. I was so happy with what I was doing, and then it led to a book deal. So I wrote a cookbook with Simon & Schuster.
That's cool.
So it's called The Unofficial TikTok Cookbook, and it came out in 2021, and like we sold like 40,000 copies. It was like
That's cool.
it did so well, and it was such a fun experience, and I learned so much because my editor and the people I worked with, they had to teach me how to like properly write a recipe. It was like
Yeah.
a learning curve.
Yeah.
Like it's not just writing instructions. Like there's an order to it. You have to write the ingredients in the order of which you're using them, and you have to be very specific when you're explaining instructions. So you have, and these are things that I never kept in mind. So you have to say like, in a small saucepan over medium-high heat, cook this for 10 to 7 minutes until golden brown. Like you have to be very specific and allow the person to like really picture what they're making, and you also have to include the utensil with a non-stick spatula, with whatever. And those were mistakes I was making. I mean, I had no background. I was just an amateur baker, like learned with YouTube and Food Network. So that was so fun for me, actually. Like I really loved like just being sitting down and like describing and like thinking about the person, like picturing somebody in their kitchen, like
Well, how
putting
will
all
they
these-
misunderstand this? Yeah. Like
Yeah, but it's important. Like, and then that's how all cookbooks are written. And now that I have that experience, I mean, it's been years since then. I read like people's recipes online, like especially like the more up and coming like social media cooks, I guess.
yeah.
And I'm like, oh my god, this is like so poorly written.
Well, it's so funny that you say
And
that.
I was there. So I
Yes.
made those
Oh,
mistakes.
everyone.
I had to learn that.
I feel like, and the reason I'm like beaming at you over that is because like teachers go through the exact same thing of realizing like, oh, my instructions were not specific enough. Oh, these kids have no idea. Like, You don't realize until you're giving a large group of people very specific instructions that you have to be so precise and so specific, and they're still probably going to misunderstand what you're saying.
Every time I'm like making something, it's like, yeah, I don't have eggs. What else can I use? I'm like,
Let me think about that for a second. Or like, yeah.
I don't want to. I don't know. They're making like meringue, like that's like eggs and sugar. Like I don't want to use sugar. What else can I use? And I'm like,
Splenda.
that's how you're gonna work. I'm like, that's a tough one.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
it's interesting to like, and I never thought of myself like as a teacher, but I guess that's a good
Yeah.
thing, 'cause I am like constantly teaching
Yeah.
people how to bake, how to cook.
Yeah.
And you have to be specific.
Absolutely.
And yeah, and also like I'm terrified of getting a message to like your recipe did not work out.
Well, at that point, when you're selling like 40,000 copies of a cookbook and you're getting a couple people that are like, your recipe, blah, 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 I think that might just be user error.
Yeah, because like, well, you have to test them, and I've become so thorough, and like
Yeah.
every time I'm baking, like I keep a journal, and I think, well, now like my approach to cooking has changed a lot. So after my cookbook and like all this success so quickly, so young, I like struggled a lot because I'm like, okay, what's next? Like, what's the next?
Yes.
Like the big project, and like there was no big project after that, and I'm like, oh my god, did my career peak at like 22?
No. Oh, I understand the fear.
Like,
I get it because I've also been there. But yeah, I hate that.
yeah, and like you told me earlier, like you have a big project and then it ends, and you're like, okay.
Now
You
what?
need like a little bit of time to like
grieve that process
and then,
being
like,
done.
Figure out what's next. So last year, I was like, I had a friend who was like, oh, Valentina, like, I don't know why, like, whatever this girl said was so important to me. She's not even a close friend, but like, I really, really am so grateful for that conversation. She was like, yeah, you can't like just wait around for other people. I mind you, like, that's such a like a normal message.
But it is.
But she told me that at such a specific time
Yes.
of my life.
Yes.
I was just sitting down, like, okay, waiting, like, okay, what else is gonna come? But not like going out there
And finding it for
finding
yourself.
for myself. I was just there, I'm like, okay. Because like normally that's how my
That's
my
how-
job
yeah.
works. Like I get emails from brands, I get emails from people, I get offers. Like I didn't pitch my cookbook. I actually had the publisher find me, which
Right.
never happened.
Yeah.
So I'm like just so used to things like
Just happening. Yeah.
okay, what's that happen? I said nothing was happening.
So is that when you started looking into culinary school?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And of course, I wasn't like, okay, let me just take a course. I just started like culinary school, France. So I was like, okay, my options are Spain, because I speak Spanish, Italy, because my dad's Italian, I also speak Italian. And then I was like, well, France is, you know, like, that's like.
Pastry.
Pastry
You went
school
to
in
culinary school abroad?
Yeah.
That feels so fancy. I'm so impressed right
So
now.
just, like, Googling like different schools, and then I started applying to all these schools and like doing these interviews, and then I was like, okay, if I am going to do this, I should just put myself like outside of my comfort zone, because like I speak Spanish, I speak Italian. Let's just make this harder.
I
For
love
myself.
that. I'm so obsessed
So
with
then
you.
I applied to a pastry school in Bordeaux. Not even, and people are like, "Oh, you went to Paris." I'm like, "No, I went to Bordeaux." Even harder, because at least in Paris, people speak English.
In Bordeaux, they did not.
No.
Oh no. Okay.
So
Okay.
I,
Okay.
like, did the interview, got accepted, small program, and yeah, I had like less than a month to figure stuff out. So find where I was gonna live. Like finding a long-term accommodation in France is like actually very difficult. They have a lot of rules for short-term rentals, so I had to do an Airbnb.
Okay.
So expensive, but it was because they literally would not let me rent an apartment.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so
Wait, why? Why would they not let you rent an apartment?
because you needed if I'm not wrong, like you need a French bank account. Like they wouldn't let me use like
An American one.
American one, and then they wanted you to give them like a deposit, but they're not gonna. I was reading reviews and like they're not gonna give you your deposit back
Yeah.
Like, they don't
Yeah.
care. So it was difficult. My dad speaks French, and my dad was like trying to help me figure it out. And he's like, "You're just,
No.
like better off doing an Airbnb," and it worked out. It was like this really nice apartment, like great area of the city. So yeah, like within 2 weeks, booked my flight to Paris. Then I stayed there for like 2 days. Went to Bordeaux. Showed up, got there like at 10 p.m. one day. This man, with like a little, the shirts with the stripes, the French shirts.
Yeah,
He was
yeah.
literally wearing that.
I love that.
Like it's not a stereotype. Like people legit wear that.
I love
And
that
then he didn't
so
speak
much.
a word of English. He was just waiting for me. He handed me the keys. The key was like this giant key,
Oh.
like in the movies.
Yeah. I love that
Like,
so
okay.
much.
And obviously there was no elevator, so I'm like with my 2 suitcases like up these stairs, and then I get there and I'm like, okay. And then the next day I had to go to class.
Wow. So like, okay. First of all, how long was this program, the culinary school?
Like 4 or 5 months. So normally a program is like 9 to 12 months, but this one was intensive. So instead of like going to class and learning, and then like maybe if one day you have like a lecture and then the next day you're baking, this was like lecture for 30 minutes and you immediately have to do it. So it was like very intense, and like
Instead of it spread out, it was just very condensed. Okay.
yeah, so like 5 days a week from like 7 to 5.
Okay. Okay.
And then one small cigarette break.
Oh yes, because it's very French.
Yeah, they were like, oh, you can go smoke a cigarette and then drink coffee. And I was like, I need lunch.
Yeah, yeah. Can I have food, please? Do you know how that compares to like American culinary school? Like, do you know if there are similarities and differences?
In America, like normally you can do, there's different programs you can do. So you can do like a course. You can do like pastry arts, which could be like a year or two, or you can just do like food science, which some people just do culinary arts, like could be 2 years, depends on the school. Normally in the US it's far more expensive.
Okay,
Like
makes sense.
you would probably have to get a loan to go to school. It could be
Wow.
like going to regular college.
Wow.
While in Europe it's a little bit more affordable, like maybe 10,000 euro a year for a program.
Okay, okay.
Which is probably like 1/5, 1/6 of like what it is in the US.
That's crazy.
And I think the approach is different. Like here it just feels more like, I guess, from what I've seen, like more like college in a way. While over there, it's France. They have their own rules, and teachers are mean. And they're mean here too, but they're like maybe inappropriate there to like our standards.
Okay.
But yeah, and then at the end of I don't have to do this, but I know that when you get a degree in France, you do have to take like this big exam for you to like actually become a pastry chef.
Okay.
And it's like very difficult exam, and
and
like the French have like really high standards for pastries, and they actually have so much legislation to what can really be called a croissant and what cannot.
That's so interesting.
So for instance, like if the croissant is like in like those that look like a little crab, like they have the shape like that. That one, those are like made with like butter and like margarine. While the ones that are like straight are all butter. So legally, you cannot sell like a curved croissant if it's not like, well, you can't sell a straight croissant if it's not 100% butter legally.
Oh. Interesting. So I wonder if they do that as like people being aware for dietary restrictions.
No, they just do it to like upkeep like their high standards.
I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt,
dietary
man.
restrictions are nothing. They don't. You're gluten free, too bad.
Oh.
You're vegan, too bad. Like that's the French way.
Oh, okay.
But no, they do it so they have these really high standards when it comes to their pastries, and they think of it as like it's like a symbol of their country, their culture, and they're just like so strict. And then there's even like legislation for breads, so like certain types of bread like can only be sold fresh that day,
right?
If it's called a certain like I don't speak French.
That's okay. That's all right.
compound, or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Like it has to have like specific types of flour, like fermentation. Like they have legislation for their pastries. They're very specific.
I love that for them. I love that so much.
It's stuff they take it very seriously, which I loved. I thought it was great. I'm like, okay, like what I'm doing, it feels legit. Like
Yeah.
I'm like doing
Yeah.
this grown up thing. It's like my first time like actually like in school like that as an adult. Like
Yeah.
not it was in high school. It was so interesting. Like all my classmates were so different. I was the only American there. I mean, I'm not even American. I wasn't even born in America, but
It's okay. That's all right. You're
but
American.
I am very Americanized. I grew up in the States, so one of my classmates, one was Turkish, one was French. Like my good friends, like French, French, Cambodian, English.
Yeah.
One was from Canada, one was from Brazil, but she lived in Ireland. So like we were like
Very
a group of
interesting.
9. I was maybe like the second youngest or
Okay.
youngest. It was so fun.
I love
I
that.
became friends with everyone, and we just had the best time. It was definitely like tricky to learn to work as a team.
Yeah.
Like-
Especially with so many language barriers.
Oh
Yeah.
And the teachers, their English wasn't that great.
Oh,
So I
wow.
was like, thankfully, I did tons of Duolingo, and I knew a lot of like pastry terms, in
Right.
French. They just knew the words in English.
Yeah.
Shout out to my parents for speaking to other
Yeah.
languages. That was so helpful. But yeah, it was really interesting. It was I learned so much. Injured my knees from being on my feet so much. Like I needed physical therapy when I came back to the U.S.
Oh my gosh.
And these uncomfortable shoes for hours.
What do we like during the lectures or during the baking part?
Both. Like we didn't have chairs.
Oh.
In the lectures, we were standing up.
So like what did like the class portion like look like? Like what were you being lectured on? What did you learn in class? Then what did they like teach you how to do?
So
like
they
what
did,
did the
like-
school look like?
They did different weeks.
Mhm.
So like let's say the first week was all focused on tarts.
Okay.
So we baked like 20 different tarts that week.
Wow.
And then
And the lectures would just be like explaining the process and the different.
they gave us like this handbook with all the recipes, and
Okay.
then like maybe the lecture would be 30 minutes explaining, okay, this is the difference between a sweet dough and a savory dough.
Okay.
For a tart. So pâté sucré is like sweet, like
Yeah.
sugar. Brisé is like the one that you would have in a quiche. Yeah, they would explain like the difference between these two. They had like a little whiteboard. They would write it down. They would like briefly go over it.
Okay.
You had to like pay attention the whole time. Right?
Yeah.
Try to take notes as quickly as possible, and they're okay. Yeah, start working. So they would tell us like, okay, you could be in groups or you do it by yourself. We all worked as a team. We all had different, like each week we had different assignments. So sometimes, like I think the first week I was like the sous chef, so I had to tell everyone what to do.
Yeah.
It's like nerve-wracking. I'm like, I've never worked with people. I always do everything on my own. Now I have to tell all these people that are so much older than me. Most people are like in their 40s. Hi, yeah, I need to clean that.
Wow.
So we had different, it would rotate. So some people were in charge of ingredients, some were in charge of the dishwasher, cleaning the floors. It was interesting.
Yeah.
So whatever, we'd weigh the ingredients, start baking, then like watch a demo and go back to our station and do it. We each had like our own like little station. Every day we were dressed with like our chef coats, like little hats, apron, kitchen shoes, kitchen bands. They were very strict. Couldn't wear like nail polish or like
Really? No nail
jewelry.
polish? Why?
They say they like make it in the food, and
Oh.
I have had like my nails painted for like maybe since I was like 10. Like never took a break, and then I got there like beautiful like fresh manicure.
Oh
Like
no.
yeah, I was like, yeah, this is gonna last 3 weeks, and they're like, you need to take it off.
I would have been so sad.
you don't understand how difficult it is to take off like gel nail polish and then like try to find whatever the equivalent is to like
Yeah.
nail polish remover in France, and like how do you ask that in a town
Yeah.
where no one speaks English?
Yeah.
Whatever. I took them off, like scraped them off horrible. And yeah, it was just like a big adjustment to like these rules, and then I wanted to like document the process.
Yeah.
My sisters hated it. They were like, absolutely not. You cannot film. You can't post this. This is, and I would ask for permission. Of course, I was just gonna like film. My
Yeah.
picture. But maybe at the end of the day, like I made this like pretty tart or like pastry. I want to take a photo. They were like, yeah, at the end of the day, but they were like so mean about it. And then I think like somebody found my Instagram, and then like a week later, the director of the school calls me and he's like, "Hey, so yeah, now you have they saw my page." I'm like, "Oh, you have 600,000 followers?
Okay,
Actually,
yeah,
You're
yeah.
allowed to post now." They have given me such a hard time. Like my one teacher, she was the only female teacher. She was so mean to me. She hated me, and she gave me such a hard time. And then she was in that meeting, and she was like, "I guess you give them."
I actually really hate that.
So I actually never like, and they wanted me to tag them and stuff. I'm like,
No.
I'm not tagging you.
I hate her for so many reasons. Because, first of all, like, just because someone has followers, like, if there's a rule, there's a rule. Just because someone has followers doesn't mean that they should be treated differently. But also, like, this is your schooling that you're paying for. Like, in general, you should have been able to I feel like you should have been able to document your process no matter what. But it bothers me that they were, like, being sticklers about it in the moment. You just became so important to them. I hate that. I hate that so much. Like, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. When people just, like, change their complete tone, attitude, and everything. Oh, you have followers. Well, now you matter. Oh, I hate it.
And I'm never, like, disruptive. Like, and knew, like, okay, these are my teachers. I need to respect
Right.
them. And
Absolutely.
like the bear. Yes, chef. No, chef. Like, you have to be so respectful. So, of course, I wasn't, like, in the middle of the lecture, like, with my phone out. Like,
yeah, for
or,
sure.
Like, I wasn't going to be, like, doing a TikTok dance in the middle
Right.
of class. Like,
Yeah.
I was just supposed to get my station and then, like, would hide my phone and, like, show, like a little clip. Wasn't disturbing anyone. Didn't, like, bother my classmates or anything. Or if anyone was, like, maybe in the background of my video or, like, one of my classmates, I was like, is it okay if, like, I film this, you're not going to be in it or whatever?
Yeah.
Because, like, after doing this for so many years, like, obviously...
You
like,
want to be respectful.
How
Yeah.
to be respectful, and, like, I understand, like, it is, like, I mean, it's a classroom.
Yes. Even just with
I asked
every...
for permission even, like, before, so, like, when I applied to the school, like, I asked them, like, would it be possible for me to film? And they were like, yeah. And I wanted to make sure it was fine. Like, I asked for the permission before.
Absolutely.
And they said yes, then the teacher said no, and then they saw, like, my video for, like, the first day of class, whatever, and they were like, hey, actually, yeah, you can post this now. And it's like, you know what?
No, you had reasons that, like, you wanted to, for yourself and for your followers to experience this journey with you. And, like, when they act like that, it kind of makes it feel weird.
Yeah.
Like, even in my everyday life, like, when I hang out with my friends, I'll ask them before I tag them in anything. Because no, that didn't spill. My tray didn't spill. No, it's fine. It's okay. Anyways, I always ask, like, my friends in real life, like, do you want me to tag you or do you not want me to tag you? And I know that, like, each different friend has a different preference, because I know that if I tag them, they're going to get random people that want to follow them and random,
like,
yeah.
Stuff,
like, it is a process and something that a lot of people that aren't in it don't understand. But, like, then when you feel like it's being exploited.
Mm-hmm. And it was, like, school was a big investment for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
for anybody.
I, like, definitely saved up for it, and, like, so lucky I was able to afford it. But at the same time, I was like, well, now you're using me, and, like, it just created, like, this weird environment, and then, like, teachers would call me, like, oh, the influencer.
Oh, I hate it.
It's just, like, weird. So I would say, like, that was the one thing I did not like about pastry school, just, like, the way I was singled out. We were such a small class from 9 people.
Yeah.
So teachers really singled me out, and
And it's like you want the feedback because it's the feedback that you deserve. Like, am I doing this right? Am I doing this wrong? You don't want them to like change how they're approaching you in your work because of that.
The one female teacher was so mean. But the crazy thing is, like, later on I found out she is married to someone from Ecuador.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, so she speaks Spanish. She's spent time in Latin America. Like, we actually have that in common.
And oh,
Which I thought was such an interesting thing. I'm like, wow, we could like bond over this. She was so no.
oh, I hate that.
So, but yeah.
So you finished the program within like 5 months. So then, did you ever open like an in-person bakery shop or anything like that?
I did not. I actually got an offer from a food hall in Miami.
Ooh.
They were like, well, we would love for you to like have your pastries here. But at the same time, it's like, well, first of all, like, I just finished school, but it's so different for you to go like from learning to running a kitchen. Like, I did not have the experience on how to do that. Like, my experience is mostly with like recipe development.
Mm-hmm.
And like I told you, I learned how to write recipes, and I am great for that. But
running an entire business is an entire different business
like,
aspect. Yeah.
So much respect for that. And like bakers are waking up at 4 a.m. They're planning days ahead, and like ingredients, and like baking at a big scale, like volume, so different.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I wouldn't like jump into that. I've like shadowed a few chefs. Like, I'm lucky enough that chefs will like welcome me into their kitchens, and I get to spend time there. One of my classmates, like after school, she did an internship at Harrods in London. Actually, she asked for permission for me to come into their kitchen, not to film or anything, just like as a friend.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
Incredible. Huge. It's interesting. It's like a basement, but it was massive.
Oh, I love
kitchen, and I'm so lucky that I've gotten that experience and like gotten to see so many chefs work.
Right.
But I have so much respect for them, and like it's a physical job. Like you have to be able to lift 50 pounds. You have to be on your feet all day. You need to be strong. You need to. I mean, you get cut, burned, whatever. Like last week, I cut my finger. I burned my hand twice. I have like I actually have like a 3rd-degree burn on my hand.
Oh
like,
my gosh.
Time, you know? Yeah, like it's a physical job, and I have so much respect for them. Like, it's so different what I do from home. Like,
yeah.
Because I'm making like small batches of things.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the comfort of my own home. Like, I'm wearing slippers.
Yeah.
Like, while I'm cooking, baking, I don't have to worry about a deadline like that. Like, okay, I'm opening tomorrow and I need like 200 croissants.
Wow.
So I actually like declined because I don't have the experience.
Yeah.
And I just don't think I would
it's a different kind of job. Like, there's an entire business aspect of that goes into that a lot of people like I don't think realize. Like, even you just made me think of a story that someone sent me of this bakery. You know, they have like their own small little mom and pop shop bakery that they like work so hard in, you know, as one does. And it was towards the end of the day, and a customer came in and was like, oh, I want like a dozen croissants. I'm going to take them home to my family. Mm-hmm. And the baker was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I actually, sorry, I'm still choking on this chai. The baker was like, oh, actually, we only have about 5 left. I can absolutely bag up these 5 for you, but what else can I offer you, or do you just want the 5? And the man was like, no, I want a dozen croissants. I'm going to a dinner party. I need a dozen croissants. And the baker was like, there is another bakery like a couple miles down the way if you want to check them, but I only have 5. Mm-hmm. And the guy was like, well, when are you going to make more? And he's, tomorrow. Well, why can't you make them now? I need them now. I need them today. And he's, well, sir, our ovens are for like mass production, you know, like we would make like 100 at a time, kind of, maybe not 100.
But you need to, like,
we make like a lot at a time.
It's like a 24-hour process.
Right.
Too.
I can't just and like we close in an hour. I'm not going to make a giant batch of croissants that I'm going to have to throw them away. Like, well, what do you mean? I'm the customer. I said that I want a dozen croissants. Why are you being so inconsiderate? Are you trying to discriminate against me? Are you not going to sell to me for whatever reason? Like, he couldn't understand that this baker wasn't going to drop what he was doing to go make this giant batch of croissants that half would be thrown away anyways.
Honestly, like, that's literally the reason why I haven't opened my own business bakery.
Really?
Whatever. Yeah, because people are crazy.
Yeah, you were telling me that, like, you've heard a lot of stories from your friends.
Yeah.
Do you have any that, like, come to your mind of ways that, like, people have just mistreated people in this profession?
I mean, I've seen, like, I don't know, like, people who make cakes, like, cake designers and, like, so I don't do, like, cake decorating like that. But, yeah, they get just, like, full of orders. And then the person just, like, ghosts them or doesn't show up or doesn't pay them. And especially when, I mean, the margins in this business are so small. Like, the cost of ingredients is so high. You spend hours and hours baking because it's labor intensive.
Yeah.
Like, people that decorate cakes can spend, like, 12 hours decorating cakes.
Yeah.
That's why wedding cakes are so expensive. And imagine just, like, somebody not paying you or not showing up.
So why would they not collect payment before?
Well, I think that's, like, a learning curve, especially, like, when you're a small business owner. Maybe at the beginning, like, we all make mistakes.
Yeah.
People don't know. Like,
You try to give people the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. So, dealing with people is definitely difficult, as it is for, like, any job where, like, you just depend on a customer. I also see it, like, as difficult because I have friends that run restaurants, and I see their reaction when they're on their phone and they get, like, a Yelp review. Like, I've seen, like, a friend, like, Twitch, like, because imagine, like, your business depends on these reviews. And, I mean, people make mistakes. And, like, imagine you get a bad review over something that is beyond your control.
Actually. Yeah, someone else sent me another story about how, again, another mom and pop bake shop, you know, and I think something that a lot of people don't understand is that when it comes to, like, small businesses, they're not going to have the same kind of, like, mass stock that a corporation is going to have.
It's not Krispy Kreme.
Right. They're also going to have smaller menus because, like, again, those things are expensive. Ingredients are expensive. Like, keeping up with demand can be expensive. If you're a small store, like, you have smaller clientele, you're not going to keep everything in stock all the time. Right.
Too.
Exactly. So this one bake shop in this small little town had a customer come in and said, "Hey, we're in from out of town. We just wanted to check you guys out. What kind of gluten-free, like, options do you guys have here?" In the bake shop, he said, "Hey, we're a small business. We actually aren't able to stock, like, a lot of gluten-free pastry options. Like,
And
we just..."
also cross-contamination.
Right,
You don't
exactly.
want to risk getting somebody sick.
Exactly. Like, that kind of insurance can be a lot higher. Like, people with celiac, like, that can be really scary. He's like, you know, some bake shops don't want to take that kind of risk on. It's scary. Like, I have friends who are celiac. It's a very scary idea to cross-contaminate. He's like, we just don't have that kind of insurance. We don't have gluten-free options. And the guy just got all upset and was like, "Well, what do you mean you don't have gluten-free options? Like, this is discriminatory. Like, you don't have anything that I can eat." And the guy was like, "This is a bake shop. Like, by default, there's going to be a lot of gluten here. And we just don't have enough clientele to, like, justify keeping all of these options all the time. Like, we're not going to bake an entire batch of gluten-free options to sell one or two during the day. Like, we just don't have the funds for that."
A whole separate set of equipment.
Exactly. And some small businesses just cannot afford that. And, like, just like with the first story, imagine making an entire batch knowing that you're going to throw half of that away. Those ingredients are expensive. Those ingredients, like, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of waste when there are people that are hungry out there. And this guy was just so angry that he went and wrote this Google review or this Yelp review about how they're not accommodating and this place is so awful and they don't take dietary restrictions into consideration. And this baker's like, "I don't know what you want me to do."
You, as a business owner, like, you can reply, but the review is going to be there. Like,
Exactly.
it's not going away. It's gonna
Exactly.
affect your score.
Mm-hmm.
Then other people who have like a restriction or are looking for places, they see that about a movie and they're like, okay, I'm not gonna go here.
Right.
It's hard, and I definitely feel for the people with like dietary restrictions, especially
Right.
I was allergic to nuts most of my life.
You went away?
I'm sorry?
You went
It
away?
went away, yes.
That's fascinating. Please tell me more.
So, I've dealt with allergies most of my life, have tons of like environmental allergies, and I was allergic to all nuts from like age 5 to like up until I was like 20 something, 21, whatever. And it was really difficult.
It is.
especially, like,
Yes.
being in the food industry, loving pastries, like going to a restaurant, like it's hard, and like people sometimes couldn't accommodate.
Yeah.
Especially desserts, and like desserts are my thing. Like I love sweets so much, and like it would be so disappointing to go to a restaurant and see like the menu always had something not related.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Happened so much, or you just couldn't risk the cross contamination.
Absolutely.
I was very sensitive, and I couldn't like enjoy like a chocolate bar because it was made in a facility
That also had nuts.
that's tree nuts, whatever. So I definitely feel for them.
Absolutely.
My body changed. Like that's how allergies
That's
work. You can
interesting.
outgrow them.
My
Or
friend,
you can develop new ones too.
this is a side note, and it's so interesting. And if I didn't know these people personally, I wouldn't believe this. But one of my best friends, Sarah, all of the women in her life get like a 7-year shellfish allergy that starts in their early 20s and then goes away by their mid to late 20s. All 3 of her sisters, just for a 7-year period.
So that's
Just
what allergists say. Like normally, like your body like changes, and like allergies could be like around 7 years, sometimes longer, sometimes less.
That's
So,
so interesting.
Allergic reactions are so interesting because you never know how you're gonna react. So
Yeah.
you can have like a mild reaction, and then it can escalate into anaphylactic shock, which
That's
happened to me
crazy.
this week. I found out I'm allergic to anesthesia, like an anesthetic that my dentist used, and I had like a horrible reaction.
Oh,
so
that's
swollen, had to go to the
terrible.
hospital. I didn't go into anaphylactic shock, thankfully, but they told me like, hey, next time if this happens again, your reaction could be so much more severe.
Yes, yes.
And it wasn't my first time going to hospital over allergies. I'm allergic to bees.
Oh.
So when I was a
That can
child,
be
like I had to
scary.
go to the hospital over that. Like
Oh,
with
that's so
anxiety.
scary.
And like it happened to me constantly, like growing up with allergies.
Allergies are no joke.
Especially if you're involved in food, it's tough.
Yes, and I want to like really clarify because I think that I always like to talk about misconceptions within jobs and misconceptions within like walks of life and things like that. And I think that I really want to clarify what I was saying before, that allergies are no joke. It's not your fault for having an allergy. It's definitely like unfair. It's not a fun process. But I think like a big misconception is that when like especially mom and pop shops don't have a way to accommodate for those allergies, like I think that a lot of people take it seriously, but they really just have the misconception and don't understand that like it's not because these places are trying to target you, and it's not because like they just don't care. It's that like a lot of these smaller businesses just cannot afford what it would really take to like truly make that accommodation safe. And like I personally see that as much more responsible of saying we're just not going to tackle this than to like tackle it halfway. Like imagine someone with celiac going to a bakery that like didn't like actually put in the proper investment into the equipment, into the time, into the whatever of safely making non-gluten pastries, and just, well, we still want to like be able to sell them to make the quick buck, but like it could actually be really unsafe. Like I would rather them not do it than do it halfway and like be dangerous for
After this
people, you
week,
know?
having such a severe reaction, like I'm still taking steroids, and it was
Right. It's scary.
It was terrifying. So for me, it's like it's just not worth the risk.
No.
Like if I were a business owner like that, I just do not want
That
risk
responsibility,
unless-
that's
unless I can,
terrifying.
like, do it properly.
Yes.
Like your customers, like anyone's safety, not just because they're your
Yeah.
customers. Like I do not want to be responsible for
Exactly.
someone's life.
And
Like, this is like serious
Yes.
stuff.
I'm luckily not allergic to like foods, but I'm allergic to different kinds of medication. So like I feel like every couple years I add another medication onto the rack. So like when I get sick, I have to like pick and choose of like, what are we gonna give you today? My friend Sarah says a superbug's gonna take me out one day, and that gives me so much anxiety, but that's okay. That's besides the point. Yes, I think that's one major misconception that people have about like the pastry world and bakeries and things like that. Can you think of any other misconceptions people might have about like what you do or that field in general?
Well, I think people sometimes they realize how, like what I was telling you before, it's like physically so hard.
Yeah.
And the environment is so cutthroat, especially at a high level. And I think that's also one of the reasons why I chose not to become like a traditional pastry chef.
Yeah.
Working in the kitchen. It's just like what you see on the bear is like real life.
Yeah.
Like it is like that. And it's tough and it's competitive. And I can't imagine like mentally, physically, it's just a lot.
Explain a little bit more, like how physically demanding it is and how competitive it is. Like what all goes into that for people that just have no idea.
So for pastry, like most restaurants don't even have like a pastry program.
Mm-hmm.
Or if they serve like desserts, they normally buy them from like Gordon Food Service or like Cisco, like these big corporations, and they sell you like a giant frozen cake, then you thaw it and then you add whipped cream or whatever and sell it.
Okay.
So most restaurants you go to, that's why you see like the same kind of desserts, like one key lime pie, one chocolate cake, one Suzuki cookie thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they buy them frozen, and it's just like something to make quick money off of.
Right.
So it's like they sell it for $13. They buy the whole cake for maybe $18. Good margins. Because like having a dedicated pastry program is expensive.
Yes.
And difficult, and like it takes days to make these things.
Okay.
And then there's also very few spots. So most restaurants have one pastry chef and maybe one sous chef helping them.
Okay.
Sometimes it's just one person.
Okay. Wow.
Everything. So there's very few spots, which makes it already competitive.
Okay.
At a high level, it's like any kitchen, like when going back to like the bear, it's like chefs are not known for being the nicest. And also there's like, it's such a stressful job. Like,
yeah.
I mean, there's high rates of addiction and like alcoholism.
Absolutely.
And just dealing with people, the pressure, and then like physically demanding, like I told you, like you have to be able to lift
a bag of flour,
like 50 pounds, and then like carrying these big trays. They're so heavy, being on your feet, not having like time to like take breaks. Dinner service is like from, I don't know, let's say 6 to 11 p.m., but you have to prep, like get there like at 2.
Yeah.
Or sometimes in the morning, if you're a baker, like you have to start baking at 4 a.m. So in that sense, it's competitive, very few spots. It's not taken as seriously. A lot of restaurant owners just don't invest into their pastry programs.
Why do you think they don't take it as seriously as they should?
Margins, just not enough money. Like you can buy a steak and like sell it for 4 times more. Or like a cocktail. Cocktails are great. They'll sell you a $25 cocktail maybe, or New York, and great margins. But for dessert, I mean, no one's going to pay $20 for a dessert.
Yeah.
Like, think about it. Like, as a consumer, well, there's a lot of work involved. And maybe the most you'll pay at a nice restaurant is like $50.
Yeah.
Or think about when you go to a nice, like, pastry shop. Like, sometimes people see, like, a $5 donut and, like, freak out. And so the margins are so small, ingredients are so expensive, high quality ingredients are so hard to find, especially here in the US. A lot of like pastry chefs import their ingredients, or like the nature of the ingredients, like vanilla is one of the most expensive substances in the world, and it's hard.
So my family, my grandfather travels a lot, and he travels within the Gulf. And my family only uses vanilla that he gets from Mexico.
That's a flex. Love that.
So, like, whenever I make things at home, if I don't have that vanilla, I guess I can't make anything. Because, like, it's like We use that vanilla. It tastes so good. It's so good. But sorry, you just
You
gonna
have like high standards. I've been making my own like vanilla extracts with vodka and vanilla
really.
beans.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, so I have like this little jar, and then I just keep on adding more beans and more vodka. Like,
Is that how you make vanilla extra? I didn't know that.
yeah, it's like the pot's just like soaked in alcohol.
Fascinating. Okay, so then like as a pastry chef, what are some of like the most difficult pastries to make?
Um,
And what are the easiest?
well, the easiest. It depends. Like I think making pastries could be simple in the sense like if you follow the instructions, you should be fine.
Okay.
And this is like honestly why I do pastries instead of like I don't like cooking. Like
I like baking over cooking.
I just don't. First of all, I don't want to smell like fish. Museum with guts, blood, anything. Not for me. I don't want to debone anything. I don't want to have to
Raw
kill a
meat.
lobster.
Nope.
Just not for me. I like that you get to measure everything before. It's very precise. It's like 91 grams, 91 grams. I have all sorts of thermometers. I have the thermometer gun. I have like just like the ones I want inside the oven, like the ones like with the needle. I love my thermometers. So I just like the process of measuring.
Yes, it's very
Following-
exact. You like the instructions.
Yeah.
You like the
And if
directions.
you follow the instructions, you will have a good result. That's how I see it. So for me, it's like not a matter of it being difficult skill wise. It's more so time because some of these things are time consuming. Sometimes it takes like 4 days to make a mousse. I remember we'd make like these layered mousses in school, and like we would have to make like let's say the center would be like fruit coulis, like a jam.
Yeah.
And then like it would go cake over it, and then it would go a mousse over it, and then a covering over it. So like in the process of like freezing in like all these different layers just be so time consuming.
Yeah.
I think that's like the hardest thing about pastries. It's just like the time consuming and like managing your time, and like especially if you're at home.
Yeah.
Like I mean, think of all the times like you forget you're cooking, or like you burn something, you get distracted. Now think about having to do that like for one project like
For
4
days. Oh my gosh,
You
that's so
just show up
stressful.
one time and like you're done.
That's so stressful.
So I think that's the hardest thing. Like when
Okay.
something is very time consuming like that.
One mistake is just like can throw days away. Okay. Can you think of anything else that you like really want people, or you really wish people like understood about what you do that people just might not get because they're not in it?
Good question.
You can take a second. Even if you have to pause for a long time, Lena can make it shorter.
Wait, so can you ask that again?
Yeah, absolutely. What is something that you like wish people knew or understood about what you do? Because there are always hardships for every profession. Like you were saying, like it's a physically demanding job. People might not understand that because they've never done that. What's something that like you experience, but like you don't work in the actual bakeries. What is something that like working at home and being a pastry chef at home, like what is something that you wish people understood about what you do? Or what's something that like, you know, we all get comments, and like what are some comments that you might see and think they just don't understand?
I think the creative burnout.
Okay.
I feel like I need to come up with something new.
Yeah.
Like just post something like whatever is trending.
Mm-hmm.
And it is hard because I'm at a point where I've shifted from like what is trending to just posting things and like baking the things that I really enjoy eating. Like for instance, I don't use much chocolate in a lot of my pastries because like I'm not a big chocolate person. Or I focus a lot on Latin flavors, or like I focus a lot on Latin flavors and Italian flavors because that's what I grew up with.
Yeah.
I also have like a interest for like certain Asian flavors, or like a lot of fruit-based things. Like I grew up eating so much fruit and like going to a market and just like eating bags of fruit. Like, so it is interesting. Like people sometimes expect me to like jump on a trend, and I built a big part of my career on that, and like whatever is trending. But now as I've learned more and like I've evolved, I've shifted away from that. So I think it's interesting when people have been following you since you're 18 and you've evolved into like a whole different adult.
Yeah.
Like, person, like this is we, like you were telling me this earlier, like you've evolved so much, like your personality changes. Like I mean, I love that I'm growing as a person, but some people just don't understand it.
Yes. And I get what you're saying, because they're like, oh, well, first of all, they want you to make what they want you to make. And like people don't, like, you make what you're going to eat, you make what you enjoy, because if you don't, you're just going to throw it away. And that becomes an entire issue of like waste and like,
Wasting.
right.
And that also makes it difficult because I recently moved and I used to live really close to my parents and family. So every time I would bake something, like I would bake like 2-3 times a week. I would like drop everything off at my parents, like give it to my uncle, and like had people who would enjoy it. My dad's my biggest fan. He has a huge sweet tooth and loves desserts. Now I don't know what to do with these pastries, so I'm like giving them to the staff in my building. Now I have like some new friends here in Boston, so like I'm texting them, I'm like, hey, so do you want cake?
Yes, of course.
It is hard, and I don't want to waste things. And sometimes like these trending recipes, like I see them, I know for a fact I'm not gonna make that. Like there's this one thing that's trending right now, and it's like getting your air fryer basket and filling it with like making s'mores. So like let's say you do like 20 marshmallows and chocolate, you like put it in the air fryer, and like you eat it as a dip. Like that sounds great if you're like having a dinner party with friends, but like for me to make that, and just like I'm gonna waste that because like I'm gonna have 1 or 2 bites. Like
you don't want that, like you can't eat that whole thing just
like
to you.
S'mores.
No thanks. To your point of like people have watched you since you were 18. How old was I when I started social media? What, like 24, 25? 24, 25, I'm now 28. And it's so interesting when people are like, well, you've changed. Well, like, don't people change in their 20s? Like, first of all, I don't necessarily agree, because people in my life who have been in my life for over a decade will always, Rebecca's the same person she's always been, which I love that. I pride myself on that. I think that's very important to me. But also, even if I did, don't people find themselves in their 20s? Like, I hope that I'm not the exact same person I was at 25.
Growing and evolving.
Right. Like, you should be trying to, like, find who you are. You should not be the same person coming right out of college as you are as you're about to enter 30, Like, you should mature. You should become the person who you want to be. And so I think it's really weird when people see you finding yourself as they grow up with us, or as they watch us grow up. Well, you've changed. Well, I hope so. Like, I don't want to be the same person that I was as a kid. Like, coming out of, like, my first year teaching at, 23, 24 years old? Like, I hope I've grown since then. I hope I've... Right. Like,
Improvement's important. Growing is important.
I'm a firm believer that when people leave whatever it is they do, like whether it's they leave college, or they leave a license program, or they start their career, whatever it is, whatever their journey is, I'm a firm believer that people will, once they enter the real world and start their job, they develop their, like, I call it the adult personality. Like, they settle into who they are as an adult. They're experiencing the real world for the first time. They're able to test theories of, like, how the world really works and how they experience it from, like, how their parents have described it, or their teachers or professors. They're able to experience everything in an adult lens, pay taxes, like interact, right, live on their own. And so, yeah, I think it's, like, I always say that, like, seeing who someone truly is and seeing who someone's going to become, like, wait for them to get into their adult personality. Like, I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's been definitely, like, interesting growing. Like, becoming, like, an actual, like,
a human
like,
being.
A person, like, growing up and seeing who I was before and having all that on camera. It's so odd.
Yeah.
And also people comparing me, or like I get messages, like, oh, yeah, you used to be so skinny. I'm like,
I think you look great. What?
I was a teenager.
Yes.
I was a late bloomer. Like, I promise you, I started my account, I was like 100 pounds. I was like a child.
Yes. Yeah. When I tell you, like, the number of people who have felt the need to comment on, like, my physical appearance or my weight, like, I have to say this because this is wild to me. So I have been going through a lot in the last few months, right? In the last, like, since around springtime. Mm-hmm. And the number of people who have, like, sent me messages that are like, you look great. You've lost so much weight. Like, good for you. And I'm like, no, I'm unhealthy. What? Like, I'm 110 pounds as a grown adult. That I was actually less than that, like a month or two ago. I was like 105. I'm like, that's not a good thing. Please don't congratulate me on that. I should not be this little.
If you wanted to or not, it's just so odd to.
It's so strange, and I'm like, no.
Comment on someone's appearance, especially if you don't know.
I was healthy. I'm not healthy now.
They meant it from a good.
It's like they do.
It was a compliment.
They do, but that's the problem. Is like that. They think it's a compliment, but it's not. Like, don't encourage unhealthy behaviors. Like, people don't you just shouldn't comment on those things. Period. Like, you know what I mean? So like for someone to tell you, well, you were so skinny. Well, you were like 18 years old. You like women like. Settle into their adult bodies. They're not teenagers anymore. Like, that's weird.
Constantly changing, and like for a while, like when I was dealing with like bad allergies, I was taking steroids. I would look swollen. I mean, I look swollen this week. Like it's a lot. It's weird to have that on camera for people to just have access to like a before and after, like
and to feel entitled to their
celebrities, like those before and after photos. Like they could do that to you and to me. That's such an odd feeling.
I hate it. Oh, I hate it so much. That's so strange.
And I've seen like TikToks about this. So like influencers and people like get their old photos and compare them, and then they're like, I think they got this procedure done. I think this anatomy.
I was like, that's terrifying. It's like an entire level of like scrutiny that you like never thought about. I hate it so much.
Pointing out things that you didn't even know were wrong with you.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, well, that's why I have anxiety.
And, like, attacks it personal, and like, for instance, I have a slight accent, and sometimes people point it out, and it's like in such a rude way.
Yeah.
I'm like, I am sorry.
It is what it is. This is how oh my gosh, yeah. People, I don't think they realize how insensitive those things are or can be. Like,
but at the same time, you also have to have a tough skin. Like,
yeah, I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand about the internet game in general. Like, you have to have tough skin. And it's sad that we have to, but you just do. That's the internet.
Life. Like, I mean, anyone will criticize you.
Oh, yeah. We just get on steroids.
It just happens.
So can you think of anything else about, like, being a pastry chef that you just wish people understood or, like, knew, or any misconceptions that people might have? If not, that's totally okay.
Actually, something that's been bothering me a little bit lately is cultural appropriation.
Okay.
And this is coming from someone with like a very mixed background.
Yes, I'm so intrigued.
So, I recently posted a recipe. There's like an Italian dish called pastina. It's like mostly a soup with like the little star-shaped pasta, like Italian parents make for kids when they're feeling sick. So there's like
it's like chicken soup. Their version of like that. That's cute.
Yeah, like your matzo ball soup, but for Italians. And there's like there's a big difference between Italian Americans and Italians.
I understand.
Yeah.
Knowing where
I love both.
I understand because my dad is, where my dad's from, and so there's a difference between like American Jews and like Israelis. I totally get it. Continue.
So my dad lived in Italy until he was 40. So he's Italian, and it is very different. I myself, I'm like a little bit of everything. But I posted this recipe, and it got 4 million views on Instagram, and all the comments are all these Italians wishing death upon me.
What?
Like I'm getting
Because you made
Separate.
soup?
yeah, but I made it. So I made it thick. I made it like think of it like a cacio pepe. Like
Okay.
Like
I
instead
totally
of it
know what that
being
is, yes.
soup, it's just like this thick, like the raw.
Okay.
I cooked it in the broth and absorbed it. It's just like full of Parmesan, like cheesy. So I think that would be more similar to the way an Italian American would cook it.
Okay.
But
Okay.
not necessarily. It doesn't follow any rules. It is Italian inspired. I'm using all the same ingredients, flavors,
Right.
things. It's just the method's a little different.
Okay.
So the result was thicker.
Right.
Like a porridge, maybe.
Okay.
The comments, like people calling me disgusting, fake Italian, like messing with my culture and then saying like, oh, well, you're not Italian. I see you're American. You speak English, or you're not full Italian. You're Colombian. You're this, and so it becomes like an attack to my culture, who I am as a person. Then it becomes like death threats. Like people want
Over
me to die.
soup? Oh my god. That's great. I feel like the internet has given people so much audacity. They're too bold. Wow. How do you like cope with that?
I don't read them. Though I laugh, like I find them funny. It's like
Wow.
think about the food world. Like I see some truly. I hate describing food as disgusting or gross because like I think that could be that's
Yeah.
offensive. But I see some things that I personally don't agree with. Like
Yeah.
food I wouldn't eat myself. But I'm not losing sleep over it. I'm not.
Yeah,
writing
like you just
comments.
scroll on and you like don't
There's,
think
like,
about it
this
again.
one person online is like follows is like, well, I've seen like the carnivore diets and like people that eat just a whole stick of butter
Oh.
for breakfast and like interesting
Things
diets.
that we would not be interested in
Personally, I
ourselves.
would not do that.
Right.
But I'm not commenting on this person's post.
Yeah.
Like, for them, it's delicious. I'm gonna let you eat whatever you want to eat. Like imagine just feeling the need to tell somebody they should die over pasta.
Over making pasta differently than you. Wow.
Just like messing with their culture. So like then people pick me apart. Because maybe I don't follow whatever conventionally they think I should look like or sound like or act like, right? Because I don't
That's
fall, like,
crazy.
between like different little boxes, and I'm sure the same has happened to you, like growing in the South, like with your background.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yes.
different.
Yes.
So I grew up in South Florida, which is it is the U.S., but it's not like
It's-
America. Like,
yeah.
it's different.
Yeah.
Then my mom's Colombian. I lived in Colombia for a few years. My dad's Italian, but he left Italy like really late to his life, so it's different. I live in Boston.
Yeah.
So people just have like conceptions of what I should look like, sound like, act like, and it is interesting. Like
I
dealing
hate
with
that.
those cultures.
No, I
They're
get it.
like, oh, you don't look Latin, or you look this, you look that, and it's interesting. And culture is so important to me, and something that I told like I it's a big focus with like what the food I make. So it is tricky when people comment on my culture, like my
Yeah.
like my background is unique, and everyone has their own unique background, things they like, and that inspire them. Like I'm sure your eating habits are completely different than mine.
Yeah.
In your culture.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's a good thing.
And that's
something that we
fine.
should celebrate.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
And if like I don't know, like you're from the South and you like
Fried
but you're
things.
Jewish,
We
and,
fried
like,
things.
yeah, you want to eat fried chicken, but then have your matzo ball soup, and then
I actually personally hate mozzarella ball soup, but that is okay.
I love matzo ball soup.
I like the
Well-
broth, but I don't like the matzo balls, and my friend makes fun of me for it. But
It's good. Well, whatever. Like,
and I know there's
Kipper's
gonna be a
coming
lot of
up,
there's
and, like,
there's gonna be a lot of other Jews that are in the comments that are like, "How dare you not like matzo ball soup?" It's fine.
Right.
It is what it is.
but you have like your own version. right,
Exactly.
of who-
Yes. Yeah.
That's okay. Like you're not the same as a person like from the maybe like a New York Jew. They're so different.
Yes.
Like
It's all
their-
different.
Their bagels and things are so different. Or like Jerusalem bagels are so different, and that is okay.
And it's fine.
Like you're allowed to not like matzo ball soup, or if
Yes.
you just want to have the broth, that's okay.
Yeah, it's fine. Everyone can enjoy the food from their culture with little differences that makes them happy, and that's fine.
Like also like the world's so connected now, and like you're allowed to make variations of things.
Yes.
So if I wanted, like, I recently made a tiramisu with mango.
Okay. Ooh,
Made a tiramisu.
I love that.
So I was working a campaign with Visit Miami, and Miami's like known for its mango season.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay.
like you'll walk around like houses, and like there's mango trees like all over the city.
That's cool.
Not more like in the suburbs, not like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
city. And like people pick mangoes, and they have them in their backyards, and there's like a surplus of mangoes.
Yeah.
And, like during that time of the year, all restaurants have like different menu items with mangoes. So they wanted me to create a recipe, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna take like part of my Latin heritage, or like my Miami, like growing up in Miami, and then like my Italian heritage, and make this one recipe. And I think that's such a cool thing that I get to like combine all these flavors and like my background into one dish. And it should be something that should be celebrated. It should be exciting. Like that way we can, like, food can continue to progress. And like, because imagine we were eating the same things people were eating in the 50s. Like,
Yeah, no, that's awful.
Jell-O
Oh no.
creation things.
No.
Like,
That
I'm
sounds
so
awful.
glad that food is evolving.
Yeah.
And that I have access to all sorts of spices and things from different cultures.
Yes.
Like, that's something that should be celebrated.
Yeah. Some people just I don't know why they hate it. I don't know why they take it personally when you experiment with food. But you know what? They can just keep eating their bland whatever if they want, and that's fine. That's fine. If they want bland food, that's okay. I'm not gonna eat it, but that's okay. Or if they want to keep eating the same thing over and over and over again, whether it's bland or not, that's fine.
Yeah, I respect it. I'm not
Yeah.
dropping any mean comments.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm like you do what you want to do. Like that's fine. You live your best life. But thank you so much for sharing all of this with us. Like I feel like I learned so much. I love episodes where I learn things. Like it makes my heart happy.
Well, that makes me happy.
Yeah.
I'm a teacher. Like,
No, I think there's so many professions in the world and so many like you just know, you never know what you don't know. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you think you know what goes into a career or a profession or a whatever, and like I love to be proven wrong. Like, I'm not saying that I'm ever like a stickler in the mud of like I know everything there needs to be about a pastry chef, but like there's just I love when I'm like when I get new knowledge and I'm like, oh, I never like I get excited. I get so excited when I like hear an entire new side of something that I didn't know about, because like I feel like that's me growing as a person and growing my understanding of the world. And I'm just rambling right now.
No,
I don't know.
well, it's the promise of your podcast. And
Yeah.
that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, and
exciting.
I genuinely hope that everyone else has the same feelings that I have, but like I'm just so appreciative of you for like coming and telling us about this. Like this was so interesting for me, so I really appreciate. Oh, of course, I love you. I'm obsessed with you. Like what a queen, pastry chef from a French culinary school. Like that's so cool to me. But thank you. And again, tell everyone your handle so that they can find you also.
So, I'm Sweet Portfolio on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube.
I love
I
it.
don't use X.
That's okay. That's all right.
I don't know. Yeah, like all social media.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Valentina, for hanging out with me today. And thank you guys also for hanging out with us. Hopefully you're as obsessed with her as I am. I say that every week, so I've just decided I'm going to keep saying that every week because I'm genuinely so obsessed with my guests. But thank you all. I hope you have a great rest of your day and hope to see you all next week. Bye, my lovelies.